Garfiel and Ram's super complicated and twisted love affair. Zero. Garfiel was never lucky in love. The one he cared for never turned to face him, not even once. The beginning of Garfiel Tinsel's first love was when he was still very young. After that, for roughly the next 10 years, if there was anything that could be said to have continued through that time, it would be his overly harsh, self-imposed training and the habit of touching the wound on his forehead that never faded. And the ever-present love burned into his heart that awakened for that girl the moment he first laid eyes on her. This is Ram, who became part of our household a few days ago. She'll often be with me as part of her training in manners, so please do your best to get a low NG with her. These were the words of Roswal, a man with odd makeup on his face who held the position of local lord, as he was making an appearance at Cremaldi's sanctuary. At Roswal's greeting, Garfiel made a sour face and kept silent. Garfiel didn't like Roswal very much. Of course, he had been taught by Grandma Luz that sanctuary owed a debt to this man. However, that was a separate matter from whether Garfiel liked him or not. Even if he was grateful, he didn't like him. Blue and yellow, Roswal's left and right eyes were different colors. Somehow or other, the sparkle that lived in those eyes was distasteful to Garfiel. The eyes that seemed to be seeing not what was right in front of them, but something in the distance. However, at this time, it was not Garfiel's unfading animosity towards Roswal that was the cause of him holding his peace. He was smitten by the dignified form of the girl standing next to Roswal. "I'm Ram. As Roswal commands it, I'll be reluctantly spending time with you." The girl announced that disrespectfully, with a boldness that didn't match her young, lovely features. Honestly, Garfiel was both surprised and shocked at the same time. Luz opened her eyes wide, and Roswal gave a bemused smile. When that happened, the girl, Ram, folded her arms, looked at the dumbfounded Garfiel, and asked, "What? Marry me?" "No way." From the reflexive proposal to the shocking response, it was a love that lasted 10 seconds before it was crushed. "Anyways, please be my wife." "No way." As the second proposal was rejected out of hand, Garfiel's love burned even hotter. It was this very moment that began Garfiel's long-lasting first love and terrible relationship. The frequency with which Ram visited sanctuary might be said to be around twice in a month. She was a girl not yet 10 years old. Naturally, traveling all the way from the mansion to sanctuary was not something she would do alone. Each time she came to sanctuary, it was nominally as Roswal's personal assistant. Although, having said that, there's nothing that Master Roswal needs assistance with. Well then, why are ya hangin' around with Thaw Jerk? You oughta just turn him down. My dearest little sister is being held as a hostage. If I were to oppose him, something terrible would happen to her. It was a hot time, the arrival of the fire season. In other words, the season of love. Going with the flow of that, Garfiel had called Ram to the water field, but he widened his eyes at her shocking utterance. Her little sister was a hostage. That Ram had a little sister was a surprise as well, but Roswal's barbaric behavior was unpardonable. Something like threatening a person via their family was difficult to forgive. Thaw Jerk didn't think he'd stoop so low, but this, I was lying. It's no joke. I'll take care of it somehow. Ram, I'll bring your little sister back safely. So once she's safe, we can be more ow ow ow. Listen to me. As Garfiel went with the flow and got himself worked up, his ear was pinched intensely by Ram. When he yelped and went teary-eyed, Ram sighed at him. It was a joke. It's true that Ram's cute Rem is at the mansion, but she isn't there as a hostage. Indeed, it's more like our positions are reversed. Reversed? I mean that I'm one who has become shackles for her. As Ram cast her eyes down and uttered a whisper that was somehow lonely, Garfiel drew his brows together in concern. Her words were difficult, and he didn't understand them very well. All he knew was that Ram felt sorrowful about what she was saying. He knew that, but he didn't know what he should say. Perhaps that was difficult for you to follow, Garfiel. As she smiled and looked over at him with her light red eyes, Garfiel's cheeks went red. He felt indignation, but more than that, shame. For him to be unable to touch the heart of the girl that he had feelings for was pathetic. However, he didn't want to show that pathetic face. He thumped his own chest. "Do 'ent be silly. I get it, I tell ya, I'm what was it? Studyin'. I'm studying and stuff, so yeah. Studying, indeed. That's a very impressive thing for you to be doing, Garfield. He thought about reading books. To do something that he hadn't been very favorable towards until now. As far as books went, he had all sorts that had been given to him. His older sister, who had left Sanctuary and gone to work under Roswell, had sent him books wrapped in folded paper. He'd left them unread up until now, using not feeling like it as an excuse, and there was also the matter of him still being frustrated with his sister. But Garfield decided to let go of that. If reading books led to a way to learn what was inside of Ram's heart, he would do it. Garfield thought about matters simply. An enemy must be defeated. The reason for Ram's sad face was Garfield's enemy. He wanted to understand it. I'll try not to expect too much from you, Garf. Those who called Garfield Garf were, until this day, his family only. From the day Ram first called him that, it was only his family and the one he held dear. 3, you jerk. What are you doing, Ram? With blood boiling in anger, Garfield bared his fangs and roared. It happened on a cold night, clearly lit by white moonlight. In situations where Roswell stayed at Sanctuary, they lodged at Lou's home, the most splendid home in the village. With no place to stay while her house was lent to Roswell, Lou's came to stay at Garfield's house. He was displeased that Lou's had to vacate her own house, but happy that his grandmother came to stay with him, so Garfield's feelings about the exchange of housing were mixed. Regardless, at this point in time, Roswell was staying at Lou's home. Naturally, as Ram accompanied Roswell, she was staying at Lou's home as well. He wanted to meet Ram, but he didn't want to meet Roswell. Hence, Garfield rarely approached Lou's house while Roswell was staying there. So this day's events were random. He happened to find a ripened apple in the forest and headed to Lou's house intending to present it to Ram. He witnessed a scene where Roswell was applying some sort of magic to Ram's forehead as she groaned painfully. Ram's face was red, and there was sweat on the back of her neck. It was clear that Roswell was doing something that put a great strain on her. The details were unclear, but it was enough. Ooh, his brain seethed, and all the hair on his body stood on end. An impossible amount of power filled him, and Garfield's body noisily changed shape. His fangs and his claws grew longer and his senses sharpened. His awareness went pure red and his reason vanished. There was only hatred for the enemy in front of his eyes. Garf. A high voice was heard. He couldn't comprehend it. Oh dear, thigh is troubling. I'll have to do something a little immature, perhaps. A low voice was heard. He understood that he hated it. He looked toward it and pounced. He felt the impact pass through the front of his face. Are you awake? As though someone was banging on a pot, a profound racket was reverberating through his skull. But his field of view was filled with the face of the girl dear to him, and his head was supported by something soft. Sign that was all he knew, he felt like that was probably good enough. If you're awake, get off of me. My legs are completely asleep. Gwa. At the very moment he was beginning to feel at peace, Garfield was roughly pushed from Ram's knees to the floor. When he stood up, rubbing his bumped head, Ram was looking towards him with the same cold eyes as always. Won't you be my wife? No way. Garf, do you remember what happened? What happened? Honestly, he couldn't remember anything except that Ram's cool attitude had fanned the flames of his heart. As he was thinking that, the memories of what happened directly before that fell down on him like rain. In the evening, at Lou's house, Roswell had inflicted some kind of misconduct on Ram. His vision went red. I'm gonna bite that jerk's head clean off. That was a dream. Morning never comes to Rimjan's citadel, they say. Now that he thought about it, a terribly sharp pain remained in his nose. It was proof of an impact as bad as, or worse than, the time he'd been sprinting full tilt, and unaware of a wall right in front of his eyes, crashed into it. You beast changed after jumping to conclusions and attacked Master Roswell. Then, your little tiger was swatted down without a moment's hesitation, and you ended up as a pitiful fur carpet. Did not. Wait, beast change, I did. Demi-human blood, indeed. You didn't have it under control. Before something happens that can't be undone, you should learn a way to control it, or completely bleed out only your demi-human blood. Wah, makes you think I could do that. I'd juice fall over dead. Dummy. I'm telling you to learn to control it. With that one word, dummy, Garf drooped lifelessly. Ram looked on his reaction dubiously, but Garf was unable to raise his head. He'd been stupid. He'd jumped to conclusions. Once again, he'd been no match for Roswal. His strength, his intelligence, both were completely insufficient. So, he not only didn't understand what Ram and Roswal had been doing, he didn't comprehend what he had misunderstood. "Dummy," she said that once more to Garfiel's downcast form, and then came over to stroke his head. Ram is an Oni that has lost her horn, a hornless, you see. Without a horn, she can't easily take in mana, and it's hard on her body. So she depends on Master Roswal for assistance like that, you see. Ah! At Ram's words, Garfiel raised his head and his fangs trembled. A secret had been revealed. However, it brought him no joy. He began to feel impatient with himself. The enemy who had made Ram remember a painful memory and made her look sad was he himself. An unpleasant memory, a past best forgotten. This was a pain that Garfiel, too, understood. It was something to keep a lid on, to preserve the peace of one's heart. The one who had interrupted that was none other than himself. I wasn't supposed to talk about it, but in the forest, Actually, Granny and a bunch of others with the same face were there. They told me it was secret, but you told me your secret. So, Garf, you dummy. In response to the words that came out in his rush to say something, Ram's finger smacked the scar on his forehead. Garf had shrugged off the sharp impact from earlier, but now his eyes went wide and teared up. "I didn't tell you that because I wanted to exchange secrets with you. If you were to attack Master Roswal like that again in the future, it would be inconvenient, so I explained it. Don't get the wrong idea. I didn't mean it like that. Honestly, spilling your family's secrets to get a girl's attention is the worst. Only a weak, pathetic dummy would do something like that. Garf, are you a weak, pathetic dummy?" With his hand held to his forehead, Garfiel held his breath in response to Ram's query. This felt like a turning point, a decisive turning point for Garfiel's love. Not of whether or not his love would be returned, but of whether or not he, himself, was worthy to love Ram. "Nah, I ain't a weak, pathetic dummy." "I see." Seeing Ram give a short sigh and say only that, Garfiel came to a decision. As a weak, pathetic dummy, he wouldn't be worthy to accept Ram as his bride. He wanted to become a strong, outstanding, smart adult. That was his wish. "For yo, Ram, this time for real marry me. If you do, I'll make you as happy as the great queen of Aelenbeld Palace." With polished wisdom, overflowing with confidence in himself, and above all as a strong man, Garf stood before Ram. At this display of Garfiel's determination, Ram looked slightly dumbfounded. After that, her shoulders dropped in exasperation, and "No way." She cut him off quickly. Then, unable to bear it any longer, she softened her expression and smiled. "And you really are a dummy, Garf." After more times than she could remember, she once more doused the flames of Garfiel's love. The end.